none of these things are actually part of the Scrum Master role. Hi, my name is Daria. Welcome to ScrumMastered video series where I give you practical tips on how to build awesome teams. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the role of the Scrum Master. More specifically, what do they actually do all day? This question often comes up for people just starting in this role and people trying to get into the role and explain to their management what this role is all about. There's not that many resources out there that really explain it that well. And when we look at the Scrum Guide, it is pretty vague. It doesn't actually tell us what do you do, what are the steps, tasks, and activities that you have to take during the sprint or during every day as you work with your team. So what usually happens when a new Scrum Master starts, they start doing things like these. Check on progress status of everyone on the team. Organize the product backlog and the Scrum board. Make sure that everyone has something to work on. Split the work between developers. Take notes in meetings and send the meeting minutes to everyone. Connect with management and stakeholders on the status of the projects. Organize everything around the team, such as meetings, work schedules, and more. Sounds familiar? Well, I'm sure it does, because this is something that a lot of people start doing when they get into the role of the Scrum Master. However, none of these things are actually part of the Scrum Master role. They come from a traditional project management and a traditional project manager role. There is nothing wrong with the role, of course, but if you're a Scrum Master, these are not the things that you should be doing. So what do you do instead? Well, if I were to summarize it in just short sentence, I would say it's analyzing the situation, providing guidance, and building relationships. Well, that still sounds pretty vague, so let's get into more detail on each one of them. When you're establishing a whole new way of working, you can't just slap a process on top of something that exists and hope that it's going to work. Every company, every team, and every situation is different. So before you really start implementing and establishing Scrum, you need to understand what is happening in this team and in this organization. There are a lot of questions that you need to answer. What is the history of this team? Why they made decisions to follow certain processes? Overall, how are decisions made? Who has the final word on different parts of the work that the team does, and why is it that way? What do roles actually mean within this organization, and how are they being implemented? Maybe even understand the different relationships that are happening between different teams or people so that you can really understand what approach to take. So here, this is where we see skills like listening and observation come into the picture. So a lot of the time, as a Scrum Master, what you'll do is actually observe what is happening. You might need to attend meetings that you don't really need to be in, or you have nothing to contribute to, but you need to be there to understand the overall dynamics between teams and people, or just to understand the product or the processes that are happening. And this also obviously helps you have a better understanding of overall structure and hierarchy of the organization. You might need to have one-on-ones or coffee talks with different people, trying to identify who you actually need to meet and how to approach them in the right way. Overall, your goal is to create a plan of action, something that you can follow through to help you really establish Scrum in this team and the organization overall. So this plan might be a fancy presentation that you create and maybe even present at an executive meeting. Or it might be just a note you jotted down on a post-it. Well, it doesn't really matter what it is, but this is your way to combine the observations and listening that you did and create something tangible, a way for you to measure your own progress, but also be able to show what did you actually do during all those months working with the team and what improvements were you able to include and implement. And important thing is that this is not a one-time thing that you just do once you join the team and that's it. Companies evolve, teams change, people move, and there are a lot of moving pieces in the organization. So you need to be able to figure out what is happening, if there are some changes that are happening, and make sure that you adapt your plan to follow through with those changes as well. As a Scrum Master, your goal is to establish Scrum. So that is where the skills such as teaching, coaching, and mentoring come into play. This is where you are really trying to help everyone understand what Scrum is, what their role is, what rules are, and how do we really implement it in this team and this organization. It doesn't really mean that you will have to have a classroom trainings or workshops all the time, and that's what will take all of your time during the day. No, but you might need to do some of those teaching moments at different points. For example, you might need to spend some time at the beginning of a sprint planning or a sprint review to remind everyone why we're here. What is the purpose, right? That might include some preparation that you need to do based on the kind of people you have in the meeting. Or maybe it is something that you do afterwards with some of your team members. For example, if you're working with a product owner, helping them organize the product backlog, actually finding new techniques and teaching them how to use those techniques. And if you're not really sure about a particular topic that you want to teach the team, well, you need to do some research, and that might take a lot of time, hours, maybe full days, because when you come to the team and try to explain something or teach them something, well, you need to understand it yourself, because otherwise you might actually teach something wrong or give the wrong message overall that is not going to be helpful for the team. Then, of course, we're talking about coaching. Well, coaching is about asking questions and asking the right questions so that you can guide people towards their own solutions without actually giving out the solution. Guiding someone towards the right solution takes more time and effort than just giving them the solution, of course. And that's where you might be spending a lot of your time. Don't also forget the fact that teaching really comes in through repetition, right? We teach one thing and then we need to teach it again. Maybe find a different approach to teaching it and explaining it so that people over time can actually understand and implement it. And that might once again be something that you need to work on. Well, of course, as a Scrum Master, you might not have the authority to make some of those decisions or changes that can actually help the organization and the team succeed. So what do? Well, you need to rely on other people in the organization to help you. So that means that you need to build strong relationships, not only with people on your team, but with everyone else. Executives, management, as well as other teams or decision makers that might impact the work of your team. This might include things like maybe getting involved in different projects or talking to other teams and understanding their processes and helping them so that they can see the value that you bring and in the end start promoting you in the organization. That is how you can spread your influence. So building relationships is an important part of your job and something that you need to work on every day that might need you to really spread things to work with other teams and other projects overall so that you can gain a bit more visibility in the organization. That is an important part that might take time, might take a lot of planning and really figuring out how you can approach the right people in the right way and how can you actually help them, because this is the way you show your value and this is the way that will help you get more influence and bring more change in the organization. If you want to learn more about the daily tasks of a Scrum Master and need a little bit more guidance, I have a few free resources that you can find on my website at ScrumMastered.com. I hope you learned something new today, and if you did, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, check out my website at ScrumMastered.com. There are a lot of other resources there, blog posts, and other free downloadables that can be very helpful in your journey. And that is it. I hope to see you next time. Cheers and Scrum on!